Fantastic. Well, thanks, Morgan. Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Andrew Lawler, and I'm the manager of VETDSS and school-based apprenticeships and traineeships at Box Hill Institute. To give you a little bit of background, we've been offering VETDSS courses for more than 20 years now, and next year is going to be our largest crop of students yet. We will have 3,500 in total, 700 of which will be auspiced students that will undertake our programs in their school environments, and the remainder, like yourselves, will come on campus next year to undertake either a Certificate 2 or Certificate 3. We have 30 VETDSS courses on offer. Today we'll be talking about a subset, which is the trade subset, mainly because we can't fit everyone into a meeting. We've got a limit of 300 and we can't fit you all on campus either. So these are the courses that we'll be talking about today: automotive, building and construction, electrotechnology, engineering, furniture making and plumbing. I should mention that if you were at one of our Mullum cluster information sessions or you missed it last week and you're here today and you're interested in trades, please feel free to stay tuned. It will be covering off on all the same information. Mainly what I wanted to do today was to just talk about the expectations that we have of you as learners and the expectations that you can have of us, and to provide you more general housekeeping information on how we run the programs, followed by course-specific presentations that we're going to make available for you. So I guess the first thing that we look at, as more people still come in through the lobby, is why you would choose a VETDSS certificate as part of your senior secondary. Last year and the year before, we've grown by 20%, so 40% in total at a time when the market's growing considerably less, but the popularity is improving with VETDSS courses. Part of that popularity with us is not only the fact that VETDSS is now recognised as a senior secondary subject in VCE and VCAL, but also because of the value adds on top of it. So the reason you would come and do a subject with us, which we call a certificate, is it's firstly a nationally recognised qualification. So that once you've got that piece of paper and you've been deemed competent and your name's on the front of it, you can travel to anywhere in Australia, to the industry that you've gained the qualification in, show it to an employer, and they will know that you are a safe and confident addition to their staff and that you'll be able to perform in the environment that's chosen for them. So it's really quite important that we maintain the high standards of these certificates. It's not just about getting an ATAR result or a VCAL unit of qualification for us. It's also about making you safe and productive members of a workforce and having those employment opportunities that sit behind all of these qualifications. Obviously, the technical skills are quite different to what you would expect in a secondary environment, and that's due to the massive investment we make in the infrastructure and the facilities. We have a $6 million brand new recording studio at our creative campus. That's the largest in the Southern Hemisphere. We have a $47 million refrigeration and electrical wing. We've just built a new trade training centre at Lilydale that cost us $10 million, but it's so that you can have real world environments to work into, that you can study in as well, so that when you leave our study and walk into a similar environment at work, you know exactly what needs to be done and how to do it. So that takes a lot of specialised industry knowledge. And unlike teachers at secondary school who are specialists just in teaching, our teachers also have to be specialists in the industry from which they come. And so they have a foot in both camps. They're teachers, but they're also industry relevant. So they'll often work in the industry somewhere, or have just left the industry, or be I guess, enmeshed in the bodies that govern those industries as well. So that's a good thing to know about the level of knowledge that your teachers are going to have. Employment opportunities, as I touched on, that's a really big consideration for many families, whether that be employment straight after you've received these certificates, or whether it's moving into TAFE or university after secondary school and then still pursuing these industries. There's a lot of pathways, there's a lot of information nights, there's a lot of employee connections that we make so that you've got a prime position to access all of those jobs and opportunities. The financial outcomes are particularly attractive at the moment. We had a glut of about 20 years where every man and his dog was told that you had to go to university to get a well-paid career and a good employment outcome. That has changed significantly in the last 10 years, and in the last 5 years sped up even more, to the point that TAFE graduates are better paid than their university contemporaries for the first 5 years of their working life. Now that's extending every year as the skills shortages bite, and there's more dissatisfaction in, I guess, what you'd call just plain white collar jobs as well. So something to consider. And then there's pathways to further education. When you come through us, there's no longer the siloed approach that there was when I did my senior school education. In my time, you either did your secondary school, then you went to TAFE, university, or got a job. Now we try to create ultimate flexibility between all the pathways so that you can build a resume that makes sense to you. So we have a lot of students, for example, that will do a Cert 2 or Cert 3 while at school. They'll come back and do an apprenticeship or a diploma with us straight after school. And then, given that they're going to have 2 qualifications, they can even move into a bachelor or a master's program at university in due course. So it's a way to really build out your resume. It's a way to find the industry and the outcome that you want. Again, it's just really about flexibility. Now, I did want to touch on, mainly for students, how TAFE is different to school, because although the differences are quite subtle to begin with, the cumulative impact can be quite profound. And if I prepare you for it now, you're not going to be surprised this time next year when results are coming in and you're not sure if you've passed or not. The main things that I'd like to emphasize are the fact that when you come to Box Hill, whichever campus you're on, you are entering into an adult learning environment. So that means that, unlike school, where you'll be chased up, there's bells that ring, there's teachers that will inquire as to your well-being or to where you need to be, that won't be the same level at Box Hill, which is an adult learning environment. You will have to take individual responsibility to make sure you're on class on time, that you have the right materials ready to perform successfully in that class, and that you do the homework set for you in the manner that it's set. So it's really quite interesting. If students don't take that recommendation seriously and think that it's all going to work out at the end of the year, it invariably doesn't. We have a higher standard at Box Hill. It's not just about VCE or VCAL. It's also making sure you're competent to be a safe and productive work member. So all of our qualifications are aligned to employment standards and industry frameworks, and so that there's an added bar that you have to jump to be deemed competent. From the perspective of how schools and to have what's called a VETDSS Portal, which is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for your schools to access. And I've done a little snippet of one of the portals and put it on here, and I'll go through that with you in a second. But the main thing to know is that we deal with your schools and your career practitioners in particular. Whenever they want information on you, they don't even call us necessarily. They will log onto the portal with their password and their username, and then they will check on your details by your individual student number, and that means that there's a Christmas light list that lights up throughout the year. You get green for attending, you get red for not attending, and orange for only attending part of that class. And we know, for instance, that when we click on that, if we see it light up red, that you are going to be at a real disadvantage when completing your course, because all of our courses are practical in nature. So each week you'll be being expected to do practical activities or practical assessments. It's not something that we can repeat or that you can catch up on outside of your campus time. So please be aware that if you're not attending regularly, and we see that, and your attendance, but it also might have any work that you're missing out on at that stage as well. Now, we don't chase up with regards to work. It's not like school again, where your parents will be getting messages from our teachers. It all goes through the schools, and it's their responsibility to make sure that you're completing the work as we place it in that at-risk register. So please, if your school approaches you and says, hey, listen, what's happened to these assignments, you are going to need to pay particular attention to it. One of the differences with TAFE potentially to your school is that everything's uploaded on our learning management system called Student Web. So even though you're taking physical classes, all of your quizzes, all of your assessments, and all of your uploading of student work will be done in an online environment, which allows our teachers to instantly see if you've handed something in. It won't be a case of, oh, I handed that in person, or yeah, I'm pretty sure I handed that in. We have a digital record of exactly when you did it, time stamped, so that we can then accurately enter those at risks and then knock them off as they are completed. Now, as you can see, if we drill down into the portal a little bit more, unlike school where it's just one subject the whole year, we break our subject into different units. This is for early education, just looking at the unit structure there. There's about 7 or 8 of them. And that's how we deliver in a year. We might do 8 units, they all equal a certain amount of hours, and that's 1 year of a Certificate 2 or Certificate 3. What I did want to draw your attention to was the fact that the result is neither numerical or alphabetical. You will see under result the letters CO running down the page. That is a really good sign from my perspective, because it's saying that the student is competent in all of those units. And that's really important. It's not just competent or passed. It means that you've been observed to be competent in every part of that procedure or practice or assessment, and that it's been broken into stages and that you've been observed to be able to do all of those. So we won't give you a score out of 10. We won't give you a letter grade. We will just give you competent or not competent. So again, that links into those employment standards and contracts. We have to make sure that you are competent in every aspect of what we deliver. We have also mid-year and end-of-year reports that you can see at the bottom. The end-of-year report showing here, and it's just a drop-down list of different behaviours that we click very poor all the way through to excellent. The mid-year report and the end-of-year report is usually cut and pasted or downloaded into your school report. So your parents will see your results and will see a comment from the teacher as well as these drop-downs. And so for parents that are online and for students that are looking at these reports mid-year next year, if you've got poor or a low standard in all of those drop-downs, you will be at serious risk of not being able to complete the year and not being able to be enrolled in the second year of your course. So please take that very seriously. And then try to make whatever improvements are required. Now, the last bit of information that I have for you is learner commitments. And this isn't something that you ever want to see because it will be coming from me as the manager of the area. This is if your behaviour does not fall in line with the adult standards that we have at Box Hill. And so your teacher may initiate this, or it may be referred to me. The learner commitment is a contract that I produce outlining the behaviours that are not acceptable and the behaviours that we want to see from a positive perspective. You will sign that, I will sign that, your parents will sign that, and the school will sign that. And that's a record of your commitment in writing that those behaviours are going to be addressed. If it's not done appropriately and we're not satisfied with the result, we'll revisit that and you're at a very real risk of being removed from the program. So please, if you do receive a learner commitment, take it seriously. It's not a fait accompli. You're not done and dusted. It's a shot across the bow. If your work improves and your behaviour improves, there'll be no problem going forward. So please take all of those matters into consideration. Now, when it comes to the particular courses that we're talking about today, they're all trades related, which is great. Trades is going gangbusters. It's growing by 20% year on year in Victoria from an employment and profitability perspective. We've got an $80 billion investment in Victoria's big build projects. There's a number of other big projects in line. There's probably a funnel of 5 to 15 years worth of work that's sucking in a lot of apprentices, a lot of trades professionals, which again is creating opportunities outside of those projects as well. So really, given our location around our Lilydale campus and Box Hill, and even some of our courses at Nelson, we are in the ideal geographic position to produce employees for these projects. And they're critical for Victoria's infrastructure and our economic revival. So really, it's a great time to be entering these, and the financial and work conditions. I will go through these with you one by one, and I should say at the start, for parents that are just getting their heads around VCE and VCAL, I'll tell you about how they interact with these programs. Firstly, I should make mention of the fact that VCE is split between two different types of programs with VETDSS. There's what we call scored assessment and what we call non-scored assessment. Most of trades are non-scored assessment, which means that you can't use them to produce a study score in your top 4, and it won't be used in your ATAR as a top 4 subject. Instead, it'll be listed as your 5th or 6th subject, but you will get 100% of the 10% that would be awarded to it. So they choose your 4th best subject, they take 10% of that, and they apply it to your 5th or 6th subject. If it's scored assessment, however, it's like any other subject at school. It can be used in your top 4 or your 5th or 6th. It will get a study score out of 50. That's based on 3 tasks throughout the year and 1 end of year exams. The 3 tasks are marked out of 25, a cumulative total of 75. That's then added to whatever score you get on your exam at the end of the year. That gives you a cumulative total that then drops down to a score out of 50. If you did exceptionally well, you might be getting above 40 out of 50 for your study score. That would be in your top 4. That would get added up with your other top 4. Then your 5th or 6th would be added as a percentage. Then you would get an aggregate. Then you'd get an ATAR. So a little bit complicated, but as I go through this, it will become more apparent how each program interacts with that. And particularly, it's your responsibility to know which program you're choosing and how it interacts with your VCE. Now, I should also mention VCAL. If you're doing VCAL, which we love students coming to us from that stream, you get 1 unit of your VCAL awarded to you for every 90 hours you successfully complete in our courses. So if we deliver 180 hours a year, which is our normal for a certificate 2 or 3 in year 1 and year 2, you will get 2 units if you successfully complete them. They all add up. You need to get about 16 to pass your VCAL, so we can provide about 4 of them from this one subject alone. So let me just quickly go through. We see automotive as the first one, and we see it's a non-scored because it can only be used as your 5th or 6th subject. And whatever, if you're using it for your VCE and you're keen for an ATAR, you know that it's your 4th best subject. We take that study score, we apply 10%, and then we give that to your 5th and 6th. Building construction is exactly the same, and electrotechnology is exactly the same. Then we get into engineering. That can be used as a primary 4, so that's a scored VCE program, and so too is furniture making that you will see next to it. So both of these can be used in your top 4 if you do really well. If you don't do that well in it, you just put it into your 5th or 6th subject and take 10% of whatever the study score was. So these are highly flexible programs that allow you to maximize your ATAR while also getting the certificate under your belt. Once again, if you don't want scored assessment, you can do these without having to do scored assessment. You just have to nominate that at the start of the year. So if you're going into engineering and saying, oh, I don't really have to worry about my ATAR because I know where I'm going, you can just say, look, I want this non-scored, but I wanted to do it because I'm really interested in the industry and want the qualification. So that's no hassles at all. And then plumbing is back to the non-scored, which we can see can only be used as your 5th or 6th, and 10% of your 4th subject will be used. So that's it from the general overview. I should go back one step if I can, because we've missed a slide. I'll just go through it. One more. Just has a little bit of a lag. Okay, so because it's an extremely busy time of year and because COVID's preventing us from bringing people on site to what we would normally expect, we have now placed all of the course presentations that you're interested in on YouTube. They are accessible today via you and from your web browsers. So all you have to do is go to www.youtube.com/user/Box Hill Institute/playlists. I'll leave this on the screen for a while, so please don't feel stressed. You can write it down in your own time. And you will then be able to go to our Box Hill YouTube channel. There will be presentations on each of these areas. They will have VETDSS in the title as well. That's really important. These certificates exist in and of themselves for mature age students, but when you're doing VETDSS, you need to click on the VETDSS version of the presentation. So in your own time or straight after this, once you've had your questions answered, you can go and have a look at those, and it will just be the manager or the teacher in the area talking about what you can expect from